Hi, my name is Michael, I work with Portal Games. In this brief video, I will introduce you to the game Imperial Settlers. The game is designed up to 4 players, and each of those players will lead one of the factions. We have Romans, Barbarians, Egyptians, and Japanese. Each of those factions will also have a deck of 30 cards designed to be played only by this particular faction. In the game, there is also a deck of 84 common cards which can be used by all factions. Now, I'll show you how to set up the game for 2 players. At first, we take the main board and we place it somewhere in the middle of the table. Now we place the round marker at first position on the round track. Now every player takes their own faction board, we take the common card deck and we place that somewhere in the middle. Now every single player also takes his own faction deck and place their faction markers at the 0 at the victory point track. We also take all the goods and we place them somewhere in the reach of the hand. Every player drew exactly 4 cards. 2 cards coming from the common card deck and 2 cards coming from his own faction deck. This will be the starting hand. Now we give the first player marker to one of those players. And this is the game ready for 2 players. If you would like to play with 3 or 4 players, we would simply add more factions. So, how to play Imperial Settlers? Every single game will be divided into 5 rounds, and each of those rounds will be divided into 4 phases. First phase is the lookout phase. It's the phase when we try to search for some new kind of location. Every single player drew 1 card of his own faction deck, and now we are counting the number of players. Let's say there are 2 players, so we will take 2 plus 1 of the cards from the common card, and we open them so every player can see them. And now, beginning with the first player, we start to select those cards. Let's say I would like to choose New Forest and my opponent would like to select Ruins. The third card is being discarded. Now we repeat that. We again drew 3 cards, but now my opponent starts to selecting them. So he will select Watchtower and I'll take Imperial Messenger. The third card again is being discarded. This is the end of the lookout phase. The second phase is the production phase. In this phase we try to gather all the resources for the upcoming round. If it is a first round, we are only interested in the production zone in our faction board. It will picturize all the resources we will be giving at the beginning of each round. So I am the Romans and the production zone says that I will be given 2 workers, 1 race token, 1 defense token, 1 wood and 1 stone. But perhaps this is not the first round and I managed to build some kind of location which will provide me with another resources. Then I have to take a closer look at the first row of all the location I've already built. In this case, I have already built the trade colony, quarry, lumberjacks route. So I will be given extra worker and 1 gold from the trade colony, 1 stone from the quarry and 1 wood from the lumberjack route. But perhaps I've also managed to make some kind of a deals. In this case, the deals I've made provide me with another race token and another stone. Once I've gathered all the resources from the production zone on my faction board, from all the production locations and from all the deals I've made, the third phase, the action phase, comes in. In this phase, every single player, beginning with the first player in the clockwise order, will take 1 action per turn. What would that action be? At first, I can try to build a location. I just select one of those cards on my hand. And if it is a card coming from a common card deck, there's nothing simpler than this. Let's say I would like to build a forest. First, I have to pay the cost picturized on the left upper corner. That will be 1 wood. So I just return 1 wood to the bank and I can build a card. I just have to place it beside my faction board, but where? If it is a card coming from a common card deck, it should end up on the right side of your faction board. If it is a card coming from your faction deck, it should end up on the left side. So this is the forest coming from a common card deck. I will place it on the right side, and there are 3 rows. The first row is designed for all of those cards having to do something with production. And the second row is designed for all of those cards which will provide you with some kind of a feature. And the third row is designed for all of those cards which will provide you with some kind of additional action. So the forest will enable me to take special action in which I can spend 1 worker to gain 1 wood. So I will place it on the third row on the right side of my faction board. But if I would like to build a card coming from a Roman deck, the stone cutter, it will look a little bit different. Again, I have to pay the cost to the bank, but right now, as a cost, I have to get rid of 1 of the cards already built. So I have to sacrifice 1 of those locations in order to build the stone cutter. I'll decide to, well, sacrifice the quarry. The quarry is being discarded, and now I can build a stone cutter. Because this card is coming from Roman deck, it will end up on the left side of my faction board, and because this card is designed to be placed on the first row, I will place it on the first row. Every time I build some kind of a production card, it will give me resources in the moment I build it and in every single production phase. So right now I have built it, I will take 2 stones into my resource pool. If I wouldn't like to build a location, as a second action I can always try to make some kind of a deal. If I have a card coming from my own faction deck, I can try to make a deal. It always costs 1 amount of food. I don't have any food, but every single time I have to pay a cost and I don't have, well, wood, stone or food, I can use a gold in exchange. So I will pay 1 gold as 1 food, and right now I will make a deal with administration. I'll just place that card over here. And the same thing that goes to production card also goes to making a deals. If I've made a deal, I will be given resources picturized on those in this card in the moment I made a deal and in every single production phase. So right now I can take 1 card. So I'll take 1 of the card coming from a common card deck. If I wouldn't like to build a location and I wouldn't like to make any kind of a deal with that location, I can always try to raise it. If it is a card coming from a common card deck, I have to pay 1 raise token in order to raise a location. I will be given the reward picturized on the right upper corner, but instead of raising the cards coming from my hand, because they will be discarded after all, I can also try to raise a location in my enemy empire. Let's say that I'm playing against the Barbarians, and the player who plays with the Barbarians paid 2 raise token. Now he can raise 1 of my location, but it can never be the location of your faction. They can only be the location located on the right side of your faction board. So let's say my enemy paid 2 raise tokens. Now he can choose to raise Lumberjack Road or the New Forest. He will simply flip my card and he will be given the reward. I will be given 1 wood from the bank, and right now I have 1 ruin, 1 card which is useless. It will not produce me anymore, it will not provide me with any kind of features or any kind of action, but I can still use it to build upon the ruins. So if I will be building my Roman card, coming from a Roman card, from a Roman deck, I can always sacrifice those ruins. If I would like to protect myself from enemies trying to raise my location, I can always use 1 defense token. If I place it on a card, then my enemy has to spend 1 race token more in order to raise that kind of location. If you are running really low on resources, you can always exchange 2 workers for 1 food, 1 wood, 1 stone or 1 card, and it doesn't really matter if it's coming from a common card deck or your own faction deck. As long as you can afford for 2 workers, you can get some resources. And in 1 action, you can exchange, well, any number of pairs of your workers. You can send 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 of them even, in order to exchange them for resources. So you can, well, let's say, send 4 of them for 1 wood, 1 food or 1 stone and 1 card. It doesn't really matter. Any number of pairs in 1 action. And if you wouldn't like to build, you wouldn't like to make a deal, you wouldn't like to raise your own card from your hand and you wouldn't like to raise the card of your opponent. Let's say you wouldn't like to make any kind of an exchange. You can always pass. Once you pass, you cannot make any kind of an action, but you are protected. Once you pass, none of the players cannot harm you. They cannot raise your own location. Once every player passes, the cleanup phase comes in. We move the round marker, we move the first player marker to the player on your left, and we discard all the resources we having at the end of the round. But every single faction has a feature. For Romans, this feature says that I can keep race tokens. So after cleaning phase, you began another round. If it was the 5th round, then you have to score all of the victory points. And how do you earn the victory points? Well, at first, some kind of a location will provide you with features gaining you some victory points. But building location itself will also provide you with victory points. If you build a location coming from a common card deck, it will provide you with one victory point. If you build a location coming from your faction deck, it will provide you with 2 victory points. So at the end of the round, you just have to take a look how many victory points you have, and this number will tell you if you win or not. That's pretty much all about the game. I hope you enjoyed and I hope you will have fun with it. I wish you luck and goodbye.